Hello, and welcome to Learn and Lead. This is our special series, Leading Through a Pandemic, with Todd Popham and myself, Jennifer Triplett.
Well, let's jump into the program, and thank you so much again for joining us today. We learn and lead face-to-face in quote-unquote normal times. I'm not sure normal is going to return. I think we're going to see something different on the other side of this, but we will get through this. And Liz, thanks to the Chamber for all you're doing. I get my updates. They're factual. It's not too much information. I think I was reading an article the other day, and they said, when times get tough, 50% of the population go to the worst case scenario. Isn't that interesting? We all like to think we're positive, we're upbeat, we're business people, we're going to get through it. But the reality is a lot of us, driven through fear, are going to the worst case. My business will not reopen. I'm furloughed, and that's just window dressing for the company didn't want me, some of those things. So I think the more we do quick sessions like this, talking about what's going well, not ignoring the reality out there, but looking at the opportunities and the possibilities, it's a good thing. So I'm going to offer just a few thoughts, and I think Jen has got a handout she can share with us. And I want to talk for a while, then really we want a lot of the time together is what's going on in your world. So if you don't mind, I'm going to offer a few thoughts about leading through a pandemic or a crisis. So leading through uncertainty, and there's a quote right at the start there from a gentleman who runs a large firm that helps firms hire people, develop people, etc. And I came across this, I thought it was really a good, quick message. The bridge between the known and the unknown is not the leader's intellect. It's the collective genius of others. And I think, right now we're seeing leaders at all levels in government and business and faith communities, trying to get the message out. And the thing that we constantly talk about in Learn and Lead is, as a leader, it's not about us, right? We manage our egos and we try to bring out the best in other people. So I think as we go through hard times and our back goes up against the wall, it's easy to say, well, what's the impact of me? But it's this genius of others that we want to keep thinking of that is so, so important. And really what I've got in front of you coming up here is just some quick thoughts that I've picked up from learning a lot of crisis leadership tips, both personally, but also from other people. As leaders, when times are good, we all look pretty good. When the revenue's coming in, our employees are happy, etc. But I think a lot of leadership development shows the true test of a leader is when things go off the rails. I think this COVID-19 is beyond going off the rails. I don't know how I would describe it, but it is something that is really unique in our life. And as they talk about, we really couldn't completely predict this was going to happen. We had a sense it was going to happen. So is that completely in our control? The illness or the virus itself? No, it isn't. What is in our control is how we respond to it. And of course, we're seeing that level of responsiveness differ from the federal level, the government level, and even each one of our businesses. I've got a client who runs a firm that does sound and video for events. Well, with social distancing, that's a recipe for disaster. Right after this all hit, the next day he was calling me, how do I lay off people? I've never had to do that. What words do I use? And do I pay him severance and all these things? So just things, 3 or 4 days before that, neither one of us, it wasn't in our mind anywhere, right? Now it's become reality. Got another client who's looking at this and saying, this hurts, but here's what I'm doing to change my business when we come out of this. So there's all these different responses to this that we can control, and that's what we're going to talk about. You see some examples here on this page. So what are some best practices leading through a crisis? So the very first thing is not, talk to my banker, talk to my lawyer. Take care of yourself. Physically, yes, we're socially distanced. I read the order yesterday. You can still walk and bike outside, keeping a safe distance from others. But I think some of us are literally experiencing all this stress and fear, and as much as we like to think we're not fearing some of this, we all are. It's just a matter of what degree. Physically taking care of yourself is always important. It's never more important than it is now. How you do that may look differently. It may be inside, but getting outside, I have found, I walk twice a day. It's made a huge difference for me. Mentally, we do control what comes in our head, what we watch, who we listen to, etc. So from a mental perspective, whether it's taking a few minutes off and really, whether you call it meditation or you just call it, I'm getting away from it for a while, I'm going to turn off my laptop, I'm going to turn off Fox News, I'm going to turn off NPR, whatever it is that's coming in your mind. I've found that taking some breaks mentally has also been really positive. A couple other thoughts. One would be doing more and less, looking at what you're doing during the day. What could I do more of? Probably the first two bullets make a lot of sense there. Self-care. What could I be doing less of? What am I just doing out of routine that really isn't adding, some positivity in my life, which I really need now, not just for myself, but for my business and other people around me. And the whole, we've talked about this before in our programs, the spirit of recovery. Whenever you tax yourself, you have to recover. Think of athletes, the top athletes, top performers, singers all know if I put this much time in, this is the time I need to recover. And they're good at that. And that's maybe a discipline that we can pick up as well. So a few things on just taking care of yourself. It does start with yourself. Keeping perspective, focusing on the positive. We can't ignore reality, but again, what are the words coming out of my mouth? What am I reading? Who am I listening to? Do I need a few new positive voices in my life? Yes, I do. History, and this is when I was like, if you look back to, 100 years ago, we had a similar epidemic in the world, just like this. Much different conditions. We didn't have an internet, watching graphs and, scrambling for vaccines and all these various things we're doing. We were going through that pandemic with very little information and a much smaller population and all those kind of things. No international travel, very little of it. So what have we learned from that before? Well, what have you learned in your business before? Whether it was 9/11, 2008, the stock market crash, or a new competitor came in and ate our lunch for 3 months. We have had things thrown in our way. What have we learned from it? And now's a good time, for some of that sharing. What do we really know? And Liz said it well, sharing the facts has never been more important. You should ask the question, well, this is the number, where did that number come from? Is that a solid number? Is that a moving number? Because when you share facts, you share yourself, your reputation. And we all want to be very cognizant of that. Context, what's the big picture look like? I think you're hearing some of the leaders nationally. I know Dr. Fauci, who's on over and over again, he talks in these terms of, well, it's not days, it's weeks and months. Well, that's context, right? Like by Friday, this isn't gone. So what am I doing as a business person to give context to my clients, potential clients, my employees? What is the big picture? From what we know, this is what's underway. We don't have all the information, but can we share some of that? What we can and cannot control, we talked about that. We're not helpless. We can become helpless. That's our choice. But we can control our little world if we do some of these things of perspective and take care of yourself. Let me share a couple other ideas, then we're going to hear from you what's happening in your world. Credible information. There's a lot of information out there, and I think, of course, in this world we're in, a globalized environment, instant information, social media, everybody battling for the quote unquote truth. Well, there is truth out there, but there's also a lot of bias and a lot of opinion and poor information. So again, backing up to think, who's saying this? Are they credible? What's their point of view? Is this something I want to share? Do I want to share this and an alternative view and let my employees, my client, whoever, search for the truth? Whatever your focus is, thinking about information and communicating it, this whole bias, focus on the facts has never been more important than it is right now. And two areas that we think of, because a lot of people say, "Oh, this is an economic crisis." Well, it seems like, at least through my eyes, we're in a medical crisis, and the offset of that is certainly impacting business and many other things. But this is a medical crisis. So if I'm not a physician or a healthcare professional, or even if I am, where am I getting my information from? And I just listed, a couple examples of at least what I would find to be credible organizations that put information out in small bits, cautiously, keeping context, etc. Encourage you to find your own. And in the business world, and Liz, I put the chamber there, right? Our times are tough. We go to people we trust. And in my world, if I want to know what's going on in Maryland, I'm reading the Chamber e-News or whatever that might be. We all need our sources. And then government, the different levels there. I think the information I'm seeing so far is trust in government through this pandemic is super high at the local level and state level, and then disappears a little bit. And it's easy to point fingers, etc. But the reality is, can you imagine being a federal official trying to work with this, whether it's in healthcare, the White House, Congress, wherever it might be? This is unprecedented, all the complexity and how we do all this. So again, where's my information coming from? And at this point, when it comes to government, I'm listening to Larry Hogan, but that's just Todd anyway. Proper communication. So we talked about it. Take care of myself, keep this perspective. I got to make sure I have good information. And then, of course, I need to get the information out. So some things I've been reading lately about effective communication in a crisis. Part of it, you want to explain the why, because why are you doing things or not doing things? Why are we open? Is this good for your employees? When we put information out there, we should be thinking of the people asking why this information is coming to me. Because when you do a good job of explaining the why, it lowers, it doesn't get rid of fear, right? We can't control that. The reader, their level of fear is their level of fear. But we can help that with good information. And as a leader, if you're putting information out as a business owner, it shows you're engaged, right? You're not back in a closet with a blanket around yourself, hoping this thing's going to pass over. You are engaged and you're doing the best you can. And when you don't have good information, here are some of the possibilities what could happen. It's your clients, your potential clients, your employees are ignorant. It leads to distrust, apathy. Well, they don't care. I haven't heard anything from them. Or I would say probably maybe the worst is the last one. When people don't have good information, what do? If they feel compelled to share something, they make stuff up. Stuff is a technical term. I'm just kidding. So thinking about your employees, your clients, people in your life, think about what's going on in their mind if they're not hearing from you as a leader. The vacuum does get filled with information, right? So that's the why. The how, it's staying visible. We're doing that here today. Virtual reality. 2 weeks ago, Zoom was something that I learned how to jump on meetings, but I really couldn't do much more, and it has become a daily part of my life. I'm taking a Zoom class on Friday so I can do what Jen's doing, like sharing and things like that. So again, being visible, whether it's in face-to-face or at least getting information out, just again shows our engagement. And finally, the what. It's a priority focus right now. What is that? People are going, what's most important? Well, over and over again, you hear about safety, people's health, right? My people, the community, those are all important. What's in the bank account's important. What's in my CRM is important, and on and on and on. But again, what you're projecting as far as a priority is read by people as this is what's most important to you. A number of meetings I've been going to lately, the first question has changed. Normally it's what are you doing? And it's changed to how are you doing? And I find that's really a mindset change that's positive. And I'm hoping post-virus that we continue to do that. How are you doing? We'll get to the what are you doing, but how are you doing? Showing that as a leader, that caring attitude that we all look for. Acknowledging uncertainty for everyone. Again, in these meetings I've been in, the leader comes up, I don't have the answers. I don't. I'm searching for the answers like you are. But what I do know is this. And again, it's building that confidence. When will it be over? Anybody who has the answer to that is probably not on this Zoom call. Be independently wealthy, we don't know, right? But going back again, what we do know is the way we're going to get through this is doing that. So Jen, we'll go to the next page. Thank you. A couple more thoughts. Describe what you are doing. We are open. We are open 2 hours a day. We are, as Liz said, we're delivering. We've changed our model. We'll come to you and we'll put it in the garage. No human contact. I had heard of Peapod before. I am now a Peapod grocery delivery believer. Their system was so efficient. The driver came in, put it in the garage, waved, and it was over. We didn't go to the grocery store. We are accessible products and services, that we are offering, et cetera, et cetera. And kind of closing that area with belief. Together, we're going to pull through this. Again, I think leaders don't give false hope, they give belief. And they give belief through facts and what we are doing and what we can do. When you listen to somebody over and over say what we can't do, how are we ever going to get through this? That person needs a leader to come in and redirect them, because it's never been more important, again, to keep that belief. So finally, and then we'll want to hear from you. Let's find out what's happening in the world where relationships, again, all your relationships starts at home. We're all camped out here together. The kids are home from college. You got a 4-year-old upstairs. He's actually doing pretty well. It's being positive in this new reality we have here for a little while. Facing your emotions is certainly important too. And the more you bottle it up, if you're frustrated, it's good to get that out. How you get that out is something that is important as well. I have found coaching leaders over the years that people who you kind of call it emotional control or regulation, in other words, you get a poker face, people want to see your emotions. They want to see joy. They also want to see when you're frustrated, because again, that puts that humanity on us as leaders. So if all that's bottled up, it is going to come out. So why not let it out in small doses? Showing respect. And then the last one, your connections. We're still looking for new business. I just started a new client, not face-to-face. We're doing it virtually. But he said, hey, I know in June, Todd, I'm probably going to see you. That's fine. So it's these new connections. It's my current clients, but it's also going back to people that have done business with you, do trust you. What about harvesting that relationship? Maybe they went to a competitor, and I wonder how they're being treated as they're going through this process. Maybe it's a good time to check base with them. So again, those are just some thoughts I have. And Jen, probably what we can do is pull this down. And really what we'd like to have for the rest of the session, we've got about 25 minutes, is just how are things going for you personally, professionally, and what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. And this is that spirit of sharing with other chamber members on the phone.